Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is 1:02 p.m. here in Chicago, Illinois. That means it's time for another live stream. Today is Tuesday. Well, it's Tuesday. Tuesday because it's Trivia Tuesday. I knew that. It's Tuesday, May 10th. I had to look that up because I always forget the date. Tuesday, May 10th, 2022, and it is a Trivia Tuesday. Today's subject is going to be vertical, and the way that that's going to work is I'm going to go through a list of races. And a lot of these races, sometimes people think of them as being hilly courses or downhill courses or whatever they might be. But no matter what, there's still uphills that you're running because there's no race. Even the downhill races, they aren't completely downhill. So there is some uphill running you're going to do. So you're going to have you guess what is the vertical gain of some of these courses. I'm not sure if we've played this game before. I feel like maybe we have now that I'm talking about it, but I'm not sure we have. Even if we have, maybe there's someone new here today, and it'll be a new game for you guys, all right? But first, before we get to that, let's say hi to everyone listening on the podcast, on the audio-only version. Hopefully you guys are having a good run. This will be a game that should be easy for you guys to follow along with because there's nothing that you really need to look at, although I do have a couple of tabs that we can look at elevation profiles and stuff like that for everyone else here. But otherwise, hopefully you guys are having a good run and enjoying fantastic weather. I know parts of the country have some tough weather coming in, but here in Chicago, it's really nice. It's summery. We went from winter to spring. Yesterday, I did my bike ride with gloves on. Today, I could have run without a shirt. So it was probably about 80 degrees. Well, I had all sorts of different readings. My watch told me one thing. Phone was telling me something else. But it was hot. It was hot and it was humid for my run this morning. And yeah, I'm just enjoying it. There's a lot of people out along the lakefront enjoying the sunshine today. Hopefully some of you guys are getting that. And everyone watching this later after the fact, you guys will be able to play along too. And hopefully you've already gone for a nice run and enjoyed the nice weather. You're sitting back and relaxing. All right. We've got Frank in the chat already answering the questions with 1,492 feet. I think, just as a hint, that's more elevation gain than any of the races that I have in mind for today. So you've already gone over, Frank. Pete G said he went for a 4-mile run at 4 a.m. in the morning. Woo, getting it done. He has to get the miles in before work. That is very early. Turns to he wants to get vertical, with a little singy-songiness to it. And Brandon says he did 4 miles before work too, and the humidity there still killed him though. At 4 a.m., there's still humidity. That doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound right. Or doesn't sound very... It shouldn't be right. I'm sure it was, but it should be. CV76 says, yo, what's going on? And, Adam says, you should do the reverse, show the profile, and let us guess the race. That'll be next week. That's a great game. I love that game. That'll be a lot of fun. So it won't be any of the races that you'll see here today, but we'll do it the other way. I'll show you that's a fun one. And where were you like an hour ago? That's much more fun than the game that I have in mind. Awesome. All right. Dad owner Al is here. Says, yo, everyone. Luis Becerra is here. Says, yo, what's going on? Seatown fan says, hi, Mike. Happy Tuesday. And Frank says, I don't think you played this before. Okay. All right. So this will be fun then. Frank's here pretty much every day, so Frank would know better than I would probably. Dr. Josh is here. Who says, what up, co-fam? Dr. Josh coming off of his performance at the Indy Half Marathon, the USATF Half Championships last week. Great job, Josh. Good to see you putting in the work out there. Hopefully you had a good run. Sean says, hey, everyone, 5 miles on the trails this morning. One of those rare runs when you feel so dialed in and it feels effortless. That's nice. That's good to hear. I think that means that you're back at 100%. So awesome. Really glad to hear that, Sean. And Courtney Harris says the live stream is just in time, brought their groceries into the house. Awesome. So you'll have this on in the background, put your groceries away. I feel like that's a good way to spend time for the live stream. Awesome. And HBC San Antonio says he did 10K at 7:46 pace. Nice and speedy. He said a first run in the non-elite hat. Awesome. I think that for those of you that bought it right away, you should be getting it like now, or you should have just gotten it. So it's really cool to start seeing photos of you guys in the hat and enjoying it. So very, very cool. All right. Shannon's here, says, pumped that I can make a Trivia Tuesday. All right. One more thing. Andrew's here. Says, was an Indy over the weekend, but not for the Indy Mini. Had serious FOMO. Yeah, it does look fun to finish on the Motor Speed. Is it called the Motor Speedway? Where they do the Indianapolis 500? That's where it finishes, right? That that looked pretty cool. They had some good photos from that end of the race. All right. Let's start with the first one. So for today, here, let's see if I can make this work too. So the first one I want to show you guys, see all this screen sharing stuff kind of takes a long time. Okay, here we go. Sharing the screen here is the Marine Corps Marathon. All right, here is what it looks like. There's the course elevation profile, so you got it there. So it looks, I mean, I did not know that this is what the Marine Corps Marathon course looked like. I don't know what I thought it would look like, but I wasn't expecting this when I looked it up today. And oh, look at that. It looks like I'm part of the website. So it's got a giant hill in the beginning, like for several miles. Then a giant downhill, and then a little bit of rolling, but not too much. Nothing that looks too crazy in comparison. And then it gets a little tough at the end. So it looks like it pretty much starts and ends at the same spot. I know that there's a significant amount of uphill at the finish. I'd like the way finish, like when you see the finish line kind of thing. But what is the total elevation gain that you'd run over the course of this? Like running up that big hill, all those little uphills after that. What do you guys think? We got, Adam thinks that's 278 feet. Frank thinks that's going to be 107. Brian's coming at 375. Louise says 55 meters. I don't know what that converts to. I have no idea. So I don't know if your guess is going to be good or not. Jonathan Crossley's at 262. Jonathan Ward says 475. C-Town Fan says 328. And Kerry Smith says 600. Dr. John thinks it's over 9,000 feet. That's a lot. That's a lot. We got Brandon Palmer at 405, JC at 360, and Mark Chankoko at 1,000. So, you know, the website itself doesn't say like what it was. It doesn't even say if there's a net uphill or a net downhill. It just kind of gives you a description of the course. And so for all of these, what I've had to do, and that seems to be common for all these races, no one ever says like, yeah, it might be a net downhill or it's a net downhill of so many feet, or it might say it's a hilly course, but it won't tell you like what the uphill total gain is. So I usually had to kind of look for someone else that's run it and posted something about it. So one of the things that I found was from this guy. How do I do that? So let's change it and share this tab now. Yeah, so this guy ran it in 2019. Wolfie or Kurt runs, and on his watch, what he came in with was overall elevation gain, 794 feet. So that's what he came in with, 700. And do you guys see that? I highlight. Oh, there we go. It's highlighted. 794 feet for the Marine Corps Marathon. So let's see who was closest back there. Let's see. We got, someone had like 600 feet. Kerry Smith had 600 feet. I think that's the closest one. There we go. Nice. There was a question here I saw about. Oh, Frank wants to know, is the Motor Speedway banked? Is it? I think it is. Isn't it? Yeah, it's got to be. I'm not sure on that one. All right. So, yeah. So Eric says it's not that bad for a marathon. Yeah. And Terrence who says, are all 700 feet in the first 2 miles? No, I think it's like 300 feet you're going up, 200 to 300 feet in the first like 2 miles and change from what I read on of a variety of different descriptions of the Marine Corps Marathon. And then, yeah. And then like the rest of it is what you're getting from going up and down all those little hills. Now, Frank says, doesn't Find My Marathon have the elevation most of the time? I'm not sure. I haven't looked at that. That would have been a lot easier for me to figure all this stuff out. Because sometimes it's a little bit harder to kind of like find. Like I tried to find, it took me a while, but I finally found someone that had done the LA Marathon on the new route before to see what like the total elevation gain was going to be with the way that it finishes now. Not at the beach anymore, but in Century City, right? Yeah, so... And Lou says that 794 feet is about 243 meters. All right, there you go. Awesome, really cool. Let's stop sharing this one. There we go. And let's see if we can get to the next one. All right, next one's gonna be here. I'm gonna see. Oh, all right. The next one I have is the LA Marathon. I think I've talked about this too, so it might be familiar to some of you guys. But let's take a look at it here. Let me see if I can pull it up. Here we go. All right. Here's the LA Marathon course, and there's the elevation profile of it. And if you look at from mile like 22 and a half to the end, that's like kind of the new part where you, instead of running down towards the beach, you're running kind of circling back. You're doing an out and back in that area, and then it's a lot of, well, it's not all uphill, but there's more uphill than there was downhill. So what do you think the total elevation gain is going to be on the LA Marathon? Eric says that the Marine Corps Marathon elevation gain was 630 feet and the loss was 593 feet. I'm guessing that's from Find My Marathon. That's very different than what that one guy had on his readings. JC says that it's 630 feet on Find My Marathon. Let me tell you. Well, okay, that must be from, maybe that one's from Marine Corps. I'm not sure. All right, so Terrence Hui says for LA Marathon, he thinks it's 970 feet. Shannon says 800. Brian Battaglia comes in with 1350. Jonathan Ward 825. And Frank says 800 gain and 1100 loss. There is a big dip. The first 5K is pretty much straight downhill. It's a lot of fun. Adam's going with jumbo jet number 747. Jonathan Crossley says 786. Lee Wilson coming in at 650, and JC coming in at 1800. Let me tell you what my number was, and that, I guess it could be wrong. I mean, I don't know how official it'll be, but it's from my, what was I wearing? I think I was wearing the Garmin. I'm wearing the Garmin 945 LTE, and I had a total gain of 1,053 feet. I also had a little bit of a glitch, so it didn't calculate it didn't like track some of the miles. Like I want to say a little bit between, maybe somewhere between 6 and 9 miles. It didn't track properly, somewhere in there. But I had 1,053 feet of gain when I ran the LA Marathon. This was from my personal Strava. Yeah. Yeah, Shannon says, Strava gave me 785 feet for 26.4 miles at Boston, so I wouldn't go with Strava/Garmin. OB9400 said 66. Good guess. But it was 1,053 feet. I tell you what, it felt like a lot more than that, but, 1,000 feet, I think, for a lot of races, for a lot of road marathons, is pretty fast. Pretty high. And Terrence is, I think, the closest one without going over, where he had 970 feet. Pretty cool. Yeah. A Seatown fan said it was the first guess. Yeah, it sure was. Nice work. All right. Let me see if I can get to number 3 for today. Oh, man, we're doing really good segues here, because the next one I want to talk about is the Boston Marathon. So I know we just said what Shannon got on hers, what Strava told her, but that is a different number than the numbers that I had for today. So let's take a look at some of the numbers that I had for today. Let me show you the elevation profile. And this is one that I think probably most people would probably recognize if they saw it, So here's the elevation profile for the Boston Marathon course from Boston Marathon. So there it is. A lot of downhill in the beginning, and then rollers, and then around 16, then you get just put through like a washing machine of like up and down and up and down, up until Heartbreak Hill, and then kind of running downhill towards the finish. But even then, there's still like little blips of uphill here and there. So what is the total amount of uphill running that you're doing. Now, one of my favorite jokes about Boston, when people say Boston is a tough course, I haven't run it before, but when people say Boston is a tough course, I like to go, but Boston's net downhill. Because it starts up at 400 feet, if you could see over there all on the left, and it ends at sea level. So I'm like, it's like 400 feet of downhill. I don't know what you guys are complaining about. But how much of the uphill is? Frank says, I don't know why Strava uses the barometer for calculating the elevation. The maps are more accurate. Yeah, I think that's probably why there's so much variation on some of these, is that most watch altimeters are barometric. I suppose for things like a road race where you're using the road and there's not going to be, well, there's less likelihood for building interference if you're using map-based elevation. That probably could be more accurate. But we've got a bunch of guesses here. We got 680, 899 from Brandon. Mark's coming in with 1200. Adam's going to guess 747 again. For today, that's a very good guess for each of these, I think. Eric says that the Boston Marathon course is a wicked hard 900. Very funny. James Aylward thinks that there's 600 feet of uphill running. Stevie76 is betting $1. Kerry says 700 feet. C-Town Fan says 950. And Shannon coming in with 1492. The number that I have, and for this one, I'm going to be going to Reed Fisher as the source for this one. So when he ran it, let me see, this year, he came in 16th overall, 5th American. And according to, I'm not sure which watch he was wearing, but according to whatever his metrics were or whatever his instruments were, he had 971 feet of gain. So not as much as LA, but still that's a lot of running uphill, especially on a day when you're trying to run really fast. So pretty crazy. Yeah, Terrence said if only I said 970 again, you would have had it right on. All right. Let's see. Frank says, though, even with trail races, the satellite radars calculated for maps are bound to be more accurate. Yeah. Here's the thing, though. The only reason why I do like barometric altimeters, though, is like sometimes if you're using the GPS, like correlating or like where your GPS said you were, and the height there in an urban area, that could lead to some really goofy readings. So for example, like sometimes my GPS will place me like inside an apartment building as I'm running from my apartment building to the lake. And so then the altitude will like just jagged jump up and down from like 0 to like 1,000, or 600 is where I'm at, above sea level. So it'll go from like 600 to like 1,600 to 600 again, just jumping up and down, back and forth. And I think that's like the only reason. But I think that for races where the course is set, they can kind of go through and kind of figure that out. So yeah, I don't know. Shannon says elevation profiles on the website give me zero idea of how easy or hard, hilly or flat the course is. These look similar to Indy, which is very flat. You know what's funniest is the way that Strava does it. So if we like look into, like, let's see if we can get into this a little bit deeper. I forget how I do that. I don't follow Reed Fisher on Strava. Oh, I think it's because I'm not logged in right now. But sometimes when you look at some of these elevation profiles and the pace overlay, it flattens the elevation so much, the way that Strava does both of those graphs overlaid together, that it makes every race look absolutely flat, even super, super hilly races. So I know what you mean. Adam says, how well does GPS work in the Chicago tunnels? I mean, it doesn't. And I think what it ultimately ends up doing is a lot of times it just guesses. So it will just be like, oh, you like it lost signal for a little bit. So like it just doesn't give you readings. And so that usually it's a straight line whenever you get from one side of a tunnel to another. And it just kind of be like, oh, there he is. So I don't think it's just, I just think it's like ignoring those data points. Frank says, I get so annoyed every time I do an out and back and the elevation profile isn't symmetrical. That drives me bonkers too, because most of my routes are an out and back, or they are for the most part. And I always think about like, well, I wonder how much of that is affected by kind of like microclimate as well. So I'm running by the lake. So like something that even I've noticed is when I'm here by the lake and then I go to my buddy's house, my running buddy's house in Mayfair, it's like a totally different like weather day over there. Like it'll feel like it's 15 to 20, maybe even 20 degrees hotter and like not windy, and it'll just be a completely different weather. And even going from where I am, I'm a couple of blocks from the lake, and to the lake, I feel like the temperature drops usually a lot, especially in the wintertime or like times like right now. And so like that, I mean, that what I'm feeling there isn't just a temperature difference. I'm sure that there's a barometric difference too, and I think that's kind of like makes the reading wrong. Luke Klein wants to know whose Strava is that? It's Reed Fisher. There we go. It says it around the top. Sorry, I scrolled so you couldn't see it, but yeah. So it's not like just anybody's Strava profile. Not to say that like a pro runner will have a better altitude reading than an amateur, but when I tried to Google, you know what? I think Strava is really hard about it too. Like for as many privacy issues that Strava has, it's really hard to search for people who have run like the Boston Marathon. It's very, very strange. Like if you should be able to do a search in Strava for Boston and get like 1 million results, right? But maybe not 1 million, 100,000 results. But they make it really hard. So I don't know. You have to like Google it. So then I Google like Boston Marathon Strava, and then you usually find like a listing if someone makes a segment for an entire race. So that's kind of how I do it. Yeah, Jonathan Crossley says he's same. He gets annoyed by it too. I like it, like when the start and end points are the same but have a different elevation. I don't think my front door changed elevation in an hour or two. Exactly. And I wonder like how much of that is from like, if especially like in the wintertime, like if you were getting dressed, putting on a jacket over your watch, and then go outside for the run. I mean, I know that when you'd have to move your like, your sleeve back to access the watch and stuff, but like, is it as sensitive as like a power meter where like every second it could change a reading, or like does the barometric altimeter like take a while for it to kind of like adjust itself? Is there some sort of like softening of drastic changes in the readings? I don't know how any of that stuff works. So, but it is confusing, right? Let's see. What else? Brian Battaglia says Strava should have race pages. One for the 2022 marathon that shows all the results, and one for the 2023 marathon so people can indicate that they plan to run it. Yeah, I think the closest thing that they have are like groups. So you could do like, because Strava has the run groups that they have, or that they've made. So like, I mean, anyone can create one. There's a Kafuzi Run Club. Like there's a, Seth has a Demore Global Running. Believe in the Run has a run group. There's tons of different run groups that you can follow. So, but that's like the only thing. So then if you go into that, then what you'll see are posts of people's runs today, and so like it's made as a way of like, so other people that are training for the same race can like, find a little community of people that are also training, but it's not exact. I'd like to see just like a results page. It's like like every race has its own results page. I think Strava should have like a shadow version of that too, of people that are on Strava. So that way you could see not only their times, but also all this other data too, JC says, interesting question. How many runners have finished Boston Marathon all time? I don't know. It's been going on for a long time. Not every year was it like 20 or 30,000 though, so yeah. Good question though. That's one that, I don't know. That'd be a good trivia question. I gotta figure out how I would figure that out. All right. Let's get to the next marathon. All right. Let me get my next tabs ready. Oh, this one's kind of annoying. I don't know why they did it this way. Super weird. Okay. Let me get this. All right. So the next one we're going to do is, I think a lot of you guys just recently ran this one. So here is the elevation profile for the New York City Marathon. And so like when you click on like show me the profile, this is how they give it to you. I mean, I guess this makes a little bit more sense because then you get everything's not flattened out. But I feel like this is like too much data. I'm looking at this and I'm like, this looks like sheet music. I'm like, when do I come in? But like it does give you a good idea of like basically the bridges and how big they really are. So this is the elevation profile of the New York City Marathon. What is the total actual gain, only the gain that you'd be running over the course of these 26.2 miles? Gary Smith says, "Oh snap, 1,000 feet." It's a good guess. It's a good guess. But it might be. You gotta be careful. It might be over. Those round numbers could be tricky for you. Jonathan Crossley thinks 10:48. Adam Pierce says a fiendish 6:66. Luke Klein says there's the Verrazano. I mean, yeah, I had no idea. I mean, you see the Verrazano bridge in the beginning every year, and you're like, oh yeah, that looks brutal. I didn't realize it was that much more brutal than all the other bridges. Yeah, like that Queensboro Bridge pales in comparison to the Verrazano. See, I don't mind when the races have a big uphill in the beginning. Like looking at Marine Corps, like having looked at the elevation profile now I'm like, oh, okay. That doesn't sound as bad. And the uphill at the end doesn't look quite as intimidating. At least on the elevation profile, it could be tricky. And on this one, everyone talks about how challenging New York is, but it's like, well, it's in the beginning, so I'm okay with that. JC thinks it's 680 feet total gain. Luke Klein says 1,200. Trevor Holtzman coming in with 950. Jonathan Ward with 857. James Edward with 375. Markin with 850. Frank with 1050. And Luis Becerra with a confusing 500 meters. I think that's about 1,500 feet. I'm going to say 1,500 feet. All right. Let's see which... I'm trying to think of who was my source for this one. My source is, I think I just found like a random person that ran this, the Strava route of the New York City Marathon. Ended up being 43.4 Ks for Sylvian Ducros. And Sylvian's total elevation gain was 291 meters. So Luis Becerra was the only one that answered in meters. So I guess Luis wins this one. 291 meters. Does anyone know what that is in feet? That's got to be what, like 900 feet of gain? I wrote it down. Oh yeah, I have it converted. 955 feet of gain. So that is the total gain that I'm going to go with on this one. So yeah. Brandon Palmer says, all these profiles make me think that St. Louis is stupid flat and I'll never be prepared for anything. I think that's St. Louis is not super flat. That's my understanding. It's got some hills to it. Yeah, Luke Klein says brutal is an understatement for New York, but the 59 is at mile 16. Slight difference. Yeah, there you go. That's true. DJ Modib says, supposedly there's more gain at the Fred Lebow half than in the whole New York City Marathon. Really? Oh, boy. Yeah, Andrew says St. Louis is... Andrew just ran it. He says St. Louis is definitely not super flat. He said that the Go St. Louis Marathon was 1,000 plus feet of gain, I think. Yeah. That's a lot of gain. All right, super fun. I like this. I like this game. This game is turning out to be at least as fun as I was hoping for. Sometimes I'm worried. I'm like I don't know if anyone's gonna like these games. All right, we got one more race that we're gonna go over for today, and this one is for selfish reasons I looked at this one. All right, next one is gonna be, where is it here? Grandma's Marathon. So here is where's the elevation pro? I thought I had the elevation profile. It's here, course map. Here we go. There it is. Course map. And this is probably the least helpful elevation profile that I've ever seen from any race. Like, I have no idea what's going on here. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. Starts at 740 feet and finishes at 610 feet. So it's 130 foot net downhill. That's what people like about it. It's a point-to-point course along Lake Superior. So who knows? Your barometric altimeter readings are probably going to be super off if the lake has anything to do with it. JC says that Find My Marathon has it at 810 feet of gain. That seems like a lot. To gain 810 feet to lose 130? Oh, I mean, that means that the total actual downhill, if you think about it, if you gain 810, then you have to go down 810 and down 130. That's 940 total. That's kind of reminds me a lot of CIM. Actually, I think these numbers are very similar to CIM if you're doing it that way. Eric thinks that the total gain, though, is 289. Frank thinks 400 tacos. Terry says 0. Uphill is all in the mind, dude. I think that's my favorite answer for today. That's awesome. Martha's here. She picked up Wi-Fi in a cafe in La Jolla. Oh, what a beautiful place. You're in paradise, Martha. I love La Jolla. Let's see. Run time, I think, is 250. Carrie Smith thinks it's 225. Lou says, look at that climb in the last mile or two. I can't tell if it's a climb. It doesn't look... Is there a climb? I guess there is a little bit of an uphill in the last mile or two. I mean, who knows what those green and lighter green and darker green boxes actually... I guess maybe they're 1 mile increments. I'm not sure. Yeah, Mark Ingham says it's parallel to the lake, so it's probably not much. It's possible, but like in cities like Milwaukee, I guess it could depend on where it is, because Milwaukee has like parts that are like up higher and then much lower by the lake too. So JC says, isn't there a bridge at the end? I guess there could be. I don't know. I've never ran it. Yeah, and Adam says, don't remember that the profile goes from right to left. So yeah. So if you're looking at this area all the way on like the right hand side of the screen, that's the start. So that's all part of the downhill. But yeah, even though at the finish, even if you are looking at it correctly, it looks like there's a little bit of a bump right at the end, and I can't tell how much that is because this is just not that helpful at all. But here we go. So I've got a pretty fun person to look at for reference. So we've got someone who I think this team considers themselves kind of local when it comes to Grandma's Marathon. This is Tyler German from the Minnesota Distance Elite. So teammates with Annie Frisbee and Dakota Lindworm. In fact, I was looking at Tyler's Strava today. I think Tyler and Dakota Lindworm just went for a run together recently. So they're on the same team. They're all out of Minnesota. This is from his June 19th, 2021. I believe he came in 4th that day. I think it says right on here. No. I'm not signed in on this browser, so that's why it says like follow on Strava. I do follow Tyler on Strava, and that's why I can't like immediately log in and see like the entire Strava post. But I believe in the regular Strava post itself, it says that he came in 4th overall on the day. But it had a total elevation of 500 feet. And what's weird is that it's like 500 exactly. It's like, is that right? That doesn't seem right. But I feel like this is a much more intuitive graph to look at. But it also is just like, that doesn't look anything like the elevation profile that Grandma's Marathon put on the website. So like this looks a little bit more challenging, but if you think about it, look at the scale on the side. So like even towards the the halfway point, it looks like there's like, from 5 miles to 10 miles, there's a big climb, but you're going from kind of like, well, I guess where are you starting on there? Maybe at like 550 to 650. So there's like 100 feet of gain over 5 miles. It's not nothing. But then there's a big downhill. But then there is a little bit of climbing at the end to get back up to 700 feet and then back down to, looks like about, maybe about 550, something like that. So Frank says that Find My Marathon says it's 471 feet of gain. I'm going to just look at Find My Marathon next time. It'll be more official. But I do kind of like looking at other people's actual Strava results too. So Stevie76 says Kofuzi has not met a map he hasn't got lost using. There you go. That's true. That's very true. I take every map as a challenge. And Matt Arconero says, Strava scale can make small inclines look huge. It certainly can, and sometimes it does that. So you always got to make sure you're looking at the scale. So yeah. So that's it. That's all the races that I have for today. Next week we'll play the game of I'll show you the elevation profiles, and then you'll have to guess the races. So I think that'll be fun too. Yeah. Eric says that the vertical exaggeration on that course profile is mind-blowing me back. Which one, Eric? On the Grandma's, like the official website, or the one on Strava? Because I feel like both of them provide, I think, what is a misleading perception of or impression of what the course is going to be like. I feel like Grandma's, I haven't run it before. And I haven't talked in depth with anyone who has. I know a lot of people in Chicago tend to run it. But, that one is, I feel like it's going to be like a little bit of downhill in the beginning and then some rollers. But, maybe I need to be a little bit more wary about that. Yeah, Eric says that the Strava Grandma's blows the vertical plus minus out of proportion. It does make it seem like it's like a really challenging course. It actually makes it look a lot like Boston, the way it's set up there, All right. So people are requesting, Dad Runner Al says, can they be trail races for next week? All right, next week we'll do famous trail races. So as long as you know any famous trail races, you'll be able to probably guess a lot of them correctly, since it'll be our first time playing it. I won't have to get too much in the weeds. But I'll find some trail races. We'll do trail races next week. I'll show you the elevation profile, and then you'll have to guess what they are. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. And I think that's going to be a pretty good place to leave it for today, guys. We're going to cut it a little bit short, but I think that we finished the game. We've got the next game for next week all set up. So I think that's a good place to leave it. We'll do a trail edition, trail races, elevation profile. Who doesn't love to look at a good elevation profile? I really enjoy it. And that sounds like I'm saying that sarcastically, but I actually do love digging into it. So I think that'll be fun. All right, tomorrow's video is going to be, what is tomorrow's video going to be about? Oh, Reebok Float Ride Energy 4. So that'll be tomorrow's video. I went for a run in it today. 10 miles plus strides. I'll tell you about it in tomorrow's video. And then we'll do another live stream Wednesday, same time as today, 1 p.m. Central Time. Hopefully I'll see you then. In the meantime, be safe out there, everybody, and enjoy the weather.